Alright guys, everybody would like to know how you actually got into the music industry, how you actually started your beginnings, as well as some basics about the programs that you actually use. So feel free to start. I mean, Ivory, are you ready?
Oh, yeah, why not?
Cool, alright, you can go ahead.
I'm IvoryKeysADSR. I'm a music composer for the IvoryKeys Studios. He's my boss, basically.
No, not really.
Yeah. Oh. So, how I got into music? Well, I was basically pretty interested in music since I was, what, 3 or 4. I pretty much did nothing else than listen to music and basically stroll outside. So it was pretty much, unavoidable that I play a musical instrument. So first I started the violin, but that was basically my mother telling me to play violin. So I forgot all about that and started playing piano. How I got into pony music? Well, that's a funny story because first of all, I read the Fall of Czequestria and I stumbled across a couple songs that were Fall of Czequestria theme. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I might try something, do something akin to that. So I did a small thing, which is the Fall of Czequestria theme, which I uploaded to YouTube, and I actually got pretty surprised that it got a lot of views in the time for me, because I had videos with 20, 30 views, and suddenly I get this video with 1,000, 1,500, and I was like, whoa. So, and then this guy right here drafted me to the team, and basically I'm a composer for the IvoryKeys Studios since then.
So how I got to music? Well, I started with the piano lessons when I was 6, and then later on my dad bought me a Atari 800 XL, which is this very old 8-bit computer, right? And then I was making then I was like playing the music, like the classical training and stuff like that. And then at the university I started, let's say, producing music. Then I forgot about that. And then I broke my arm while riding snowboard, and I need a rehab. So I got a keyboard, right? And so I started playing, like, seriously. Like I started making music as sort of a rehabilitation for my left hand. And it was kind of interesting that when you improvise, right? And this thing was broken here, so it was quite interesting to see that at different chords, different combinations of tones would hurt in the different ways, right? So actually, C minor, that really is a bad chord to play when you have a broken arm. C sharp minor was just fine, right? So I have learned how to play in those. No, I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, there was a thing like that, and then I discovered about this whole pony thing and stuff, and started making music there, and then I applied for the position as at the IvoryKeys Studios, that it would be cool to have something, and a place where I could work and present my music. And then thanks to this, because I have learned a lot, and I sort of started to understand that I know enough so that I can get hired doing this, and I actually got hired doing this. So I'm a member of the music team at Warhorse Studios, and I work on Kingdom Come Deliverance as well. So yeah, so I'm a music team lead at IvoryKeys Studios, and we work on the Fall of Czequestria. And I'm a technical musician, well, music technologist at Warhorse Studios. Yeah.
Okay. And personally, I'm not a professional musician. I'm a doctor, but I used to study in the musical school in my childhood. But there was hard times in my life, but thanks to Ronis, thanks to our community, that you've inspired me to play again. So it was a deal of 1 year, and I got into the Moscow conventions. So I just want to thank you again, because you're my major source of inspiration.
Cool. So I think we can open the floor for questions, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, I kind of ended up actually enrolling in a university for music production, so hopefully my future job will be related to music, which would be cool.
Yeah, awesome. Right, so I don't know how to proceed. Probably if you guys have any questions or stuff like that, maybe. You can ask us like what sort of music equipment we use and what sort of workflows we do, what sort of projects we're working on. Actually, those are good questions, right? Oh yeah, yes, right. Okay, that works. So, what do you use to make music?
Well, nowadays I mostly use Pro Tools because that's what we were expected to use at school. Also, I would use Logic if I had a Mac, but I don't. So mainly Pro Tools, and for sequencing I use the Fruity Loop Studio, the FL Studio, because the sequencer in Pro Tools is just very hard to work with, very slow. Also a ton of VST plugins, but my favorite is probably the Omnisphere, which is a very powerful synth. Oh, and also my hardware synth, the Korg M3.
Yeah, I actually use quite a lot of technologies because I'm responsible for implementation of adaptive music in well, 2 games now, and I have developed my own system, well, our own system for you know, handling the dynamic or adaptive music in computer games, which is a code which responds to let's say actions within the game. So I would observe, or my code would observe whatever is happening in the game, like what's the player's stats, what are the player stats, and what is the situation regarding combats and these kinds of things, and I would then select the correct portions of the music to play, and yeah, so I would use this, I would code this, I would use Reaper for production. I have quite a nice collection of VSTs, like virtual synthesizers. I would use Native Instruments Complete 10 and Cinesamples. Those are, you know, nice. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, and yes, and also I do 8-bit music. So I would use like emulators of old computers, of, you know, that Atari 800 XL. And which is a nice thing because you have 4 channels and you have to do all different tweaks, how to squeeze your music into 4 channels, including bass, drums, harmonies, melodies, some additional layers and stuff like that. So you really have to be sort of, you know, inventive in terms of how to structure your music. And also it has an effect on the genre, right? Because it doesn't allow you to do a lot of things. And then I would use modules. I mean, I use trackers. Are you guys familiar with this technology? Who is familiar with tracking technology? Fast Tracker, for example. Impulse Tracker. No one? Any hands? Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could see a few hands, right? So it's not entirely dead. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
What about Spencer? You know, I think it's a deal of taste, right? Because the Nausea, for example, he uses FL Studio. Adam Young from Old City uses Logic, and Skrillex uses Ableton. So it's really a deal of your taste, and it's a deal of your program. If you start from one program, I think you will you will continue to produce music with this program. for a long time. But anyway, I think that the Ableton is the most convenient system because it provides a huge number of tools for music and for video also. So yes, but I used to compose my music in FL Studio and in Guitar Pro back to the really early days, back to the 2009, for example.
All right, so so questions, any? Mel? Okay.
Actually, I would like to ask one more thing, since all three of you guys actually were playing yesterday, the Saturday's evening concert. So how long did it take for you to prepare, and what do you have to prepare? Because it was quite, each of you actually used your own tools, and it was quite inspiring and awesome as well for the DJ Aerial setup with the double screen. So can you expand on this a little bit?
Well, actually, the idea was in the VJing, but you see, there was a problem because it was my last year of my university, and I've got really not enough time to prepare. So I'll just mix some videos and pull it. But I hope in the next year, somewhere, maybe there, maybe in Germany, I will play a real VJ set with a DJ set and with some light effects. It was my idea. Yes.
Well, for myself, my part of the set, which was this 8-bit chiptune kind of a thing, I would have a lot of tracks like ready because I made them before. Those are my compositions, right? So I wrote them sometimes. Eventually I would have to write them, right? And then I have the sort of I would like sit down like twice before this event like this is happening, and I would just run through all these things, and I try to see what I would do for different tracks, different compositions there. And so yeah, so I think like maybe anything between let's say a couple days when I try to produce a new track, or when I produce a new track, or to couple of hours, pretty much, like 1 hour, 2 hours, something like that. Yeah. And then what was more complex, we tried this vocal. Okay, Wasteland Whalers, we are a band, and we never met, right? Right. So we have
Like a full team.
yeah. So we are seven people, and we never met together, like all of us. I met Ivory, right? And I met Yondi. I met Brittany Church. I met Haymaker, but I never met James Günther in my life. We only spoke over Skype because he's in Texas, and I never met, and I don't get there too often, and I never met Corvus, who's in Minneapolis, and also I don't go there too often. So I never met him. So we work over Skype, and we are producers. We're not performers, right? That's kind of different, because when you get to cheat a lot, right? If you don't like certain takes, if you don't like certain things, how let's say someone did a take, or you can edit stuff, so it's really kind of cheating. So it's not like, so I would consider myself a producer, not a performer, because that's how it is. So we did an experiment. So we did these 2 songs live, and that was pretty much the first time that we ever performed them live. And of course we had to use the backtrack because we wouldn't have enough people here, because well, we are pretty much American band, so most of our members are in the States, and we have American chapter and Czechoslovak chapter, right? So that's how it was.
With Hamish, it's an European chapter.
That's right. Yeah, Hamish is from Britain, so it was totally a European chapter yesterday. Anyway, that took us some time, because we had to figure out what sort of tracks are coming out of the backtrack, what sort of how things are gonna be done and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I started preparing one of my backtracks way back in January, but then I had to like a pause the work on that because of school stuff and things like that. But yeah, I was actually rehearsing for this show, let's say for about a week and a half, for basically just going through the songs every day and stuff. And I also forgot about one song, so I had actually almost recreated like day before yesterday. So then there wasn't really the time to rehearse that, but actually it was the one that came out the best. So I don't know, maybe I should try rehearsing like only one day before the show. Maybe then it won't go south.
Yep.
Should we do Q&A now?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah, okay. All right, if anybody has any question regarding audio stuff, performance, or including like Ivory's beard, just put your hand up. Yeah. Okay. There may be a little bit of echo. There we go. Yep.
Question for Adam. In MLP, William Anderson composes all background music, right? He receives the episode and he has to fill it with back the action with music. And adaptive music for games is, I guess, something that tries to replace this what William Anderson does with an algorithm. Can you elaborate on that? Like, how is that done? And most importantly, what are the limits? Like, or do you believe it's possible to like have it 100% perfect as if a human had done it? Or if not, then what are the limits? What you cannot do with adaptive music?
Oh, okay. I don't. Yeah.
Check. Oh, check this microphone as well.
Yeah.
Hello.
Microphone is dead.
Hello. No.
No.
Voila.
Oh,
Never mind.
There we go.
never mind.
Thanks for the question. Actually, there is one big, let's say, difference between these two approaches. Well, the difference is actually in the use case already, not only in the way how things are done, because adaptive music responds to things that you cannot anticipate, right? Film music has this luxury of having an entire script available for you, so you can see what's coming, and you can decide whether you would reflect on things which were done in the past or happened in the past, in the storyline, or whether you're going to anticipate things, right? Whether you're going to give some hints that something is about to happen, right? And you don't really have this in the computer game, well, to a certain extent, right? You have to if you want these effects to be in place, you have to go by, let's say, you are in an environment which is likely that you get let's say, beaten up. No reference to any event, present or past, so basically you need to. You would understand that is a dangerous place, and you probably would want to change the music, but that music responds to the fact that you are somewhere, not that something is about to happen. So that is different. And the other difference is that, of course, I cannot entirely synchronize the music with the effects, with the actions on the screen, because I have no way to tell the latency between the actions of the music engine, well, the actions of the game, and when particular bars of my music come out of the speaker. Well, you can do that. It would take a lot of tweaking. It can be done. I have an idea how to do this, but usually you just ignore that. So the response, well, what we do for Kingdom Come Deliverance, we try to have, and for Czequestria as well, of course. We try to be able to switch from one scene to another within let's say 1 or 2 seconds. Right, but that's sort of the limit that you can achieve, because at least in Kingdom Come, we try to maintain a steady flow of the music, and we would like that the music still works as the music, so let's say no abrupt changes, and if the changes are abrupt, you need to make them in the way that as if they would appear in the movie. So there is a time lag between whatever is happening in the game and whatever you hear. That's intrinsic to the whole thing, unfortunately. And yeah, and that in the movies you actually know exactly when things are going to happen, and not only that, you also see how many things are going to happen and how many instances of these things are going to happen. So you can plan things like, all right, so this I don't know, one of the characters is going to walk through this door, let's say 3 times throughout the episode, and we want to emphasize that, or you know, stress that. So we might do some like staging or, you know, dramaturgy there, which is that, you know, that we come up with the motive, and then we repeat this motive and develop on this motive. But we have everything in control. It's like a hologram. We have a hologram of the entire timeline. I mean, we don't have this in the game. So in the game, you have to plan things like, what is the let's say total duration of the gameplay. You know, you have some idea how many hours that the player is going to spend playing the game, and then how often the player is going to be in certain locations, because you probably don't want to bore your player to death by playing one thing over and over just because you are in one area, right? So you have to have extras. Yeah, so there are things like that. So let's say density of the music, as opposed to all other things you cannot really anticipate. Well, yeah, sorry, I started mumbling at this point. Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions, please? Yeah, there is one. Let's go to the speaker.
Do you think that the skill to play a musical instrument is needed for composing, or can you compose a song without being able to play a real instrument?
I do a lot of running today. It's like fitness.
Actually, I don't think it's that important, because there's one actually, he learned to play the piano by now, but what's his name spelled? Lenich, L-E-N-E-C-H. He's a Russian composer. Yeah, Lenich. Yeah, he actually couldn't know how to play the piano, but he was composing like a full piano songs, 2 or 3 minutes long, and those were actually pretty like complex compositions. And he said that he couldn't play the piano at that time, so no, I don't think it's that important.
I would say that it really depends on the genre. For example, if you are making electronic music, you are pretty much programming stuff, and your skills are the sound design of the whole thing. And so you know how to wire things, and that's a layer which is not in the traditional instruments, right? When you play piano or flute or whatever, like violin, you don't really care about the signal paths and stuff like that, because you are not at that level of the system, right? When you do electronic music, you really need to plan these things. When you compose symphonic music, you actually, I would say, need to know how to play each and every instrument, at least the basics, because you have let's say tricks. In electronic music, anything is possible. So there are virtually no limitations in terms of voicings and these kinds of things. In orchestral music, there are. For example, when you play you know, the flute, when you go from C to D, it's really difficult, because it's impossible to play those 2 tones legato, like, you know, continuous without break, because the physical nature of how the instrument is built forces you to have a little discontinuation there. So if you write your melody without, you know, disregarding this fact, you would get a gap there, right? And so flute just cannot do legato between C and D, right? And you would have things like that, like for a lot of other instruments. For example, when you write something for singers, right? They need to breathe, right? Otherwise they would fall dead, right? So again, that is a difference between production and writing music, let's say produce music in the studio and writing a song which you actually can sing, because you really have to understand where the singer is going to breathe and stuff like that. And other instances that, let's say, when you compose music for I don't know, with the whole orchestra, you have to understand which instruments are capable of which let's say ranges of dynamics and all these kinds of things. Yeah, so it is kind of important, I guess.
Yes, I think that arrangement is very important, and anyway, you need to have a basic skills of playing, because when you can play any musical instrument, especially the instruments like pianos or accordions, which provides a playing of multiple notes, keys, you have nice feeling of arrangement, because when you start to write your songs, when you start to convert your songs from your head to the sheets, you really need to understand the arrangement of your song. And the piano is very useful on that, but still we've got plenty programs like Guitar Pro, like FL Studio, so you don't have to write very quickly. You can simply see it, you can relax, and you can easily write your song very slowly and with great patience. Yes, but anyway, I suppose that the skills, they are needed. They are really needed, because you see, we have producers here, more producers than player, right? And also, when you learn in musical school, you learn to play, not to produce. But I think that you need to be a 50% producer and 50% player.
Yeah, that works. You know, for another example, a piano, you only can, you know, let's say, do like 9 or 10 tones, like intervals, you know, like decimal, you know, like range of one hand, range of the other hand, and then let's say maximum speed that you can achieve.
Well, you can play multiplayer piano.
Yeah, you can play multiplayer piano, but already, you know, that's or you can have multiple pianos on stage, right? All these kinds of things have been done. And
Like yesterday?
yes, kind of, yes, that's right. Yeah. So, but then when I think it's not the skills of being able to play. It's just the knowledge of what is possible on every individual platform, right? So when I make music on my Atari, I am aware of the fact that the tones are intrinsically horribly out of tune, right? Because that's how the music was. Well, that's how the sound was there. They were like, okay, let's do a chip, which is a sound chip, which is capable of emitting some sounds for, you know, for some games, and then it evolved into something which was able to mimic scales and mimic the music, but the tuning is off, totally off, right? So you have to know that. So you know that you should know that. Let's say you cannot really write nice harmonies there. You have to take some measures in order to avoid certain combinations of tones, because they just sound horrible, right? So certain let's say tonalities are off limits. Certain chords are off limits. Certain let's say textures are off limits. You can't really just hold a couple notes, because that would sound awful, right? And these kinds of things. All right.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Got a question for these guys while they're here? Not away. Oh.
So how do you come up with new ideas for songs, and how much does improvisation play a part in that?
Well, that's basically how most of my compositions work. Basically, I make a short loop or something, leave it on play, and basically just improvise over it until something just sticks, and I go with that. Basically, there's a very small percentage of only just a small fraction of my songs is like pre-planned, like I want this to be like this. Well, at least for the songs I publish as me as IvoryKeysADSR, because when I'm making songs for the Czequestria game, that obviously can't be the case, because there are some predefined situations or moods, predefined moods that I have to fit in with my song. So yeah, most of my things are pretty much 90%, 80-90% improvised.
Yeah, same here. When I start, let's say, writing a new song or something like that, I would just sit down and just play things, and I would discard like 99% of whatever I play, and the 1% I then would elaborate on. And sometimes, yes. Well, sometimes I do play my music. Sometimes I don't really. I just want to see where I'm getting where I'm ending at. But then. Let's see. When you write a song, there is certain structure that you're expected to follow, right? So you have a verse, you have a chorus, you have let's say repetition of the verse, repetition of the chorus. Then there's some bridge. Then there's something some comeback to the verse. Then chorus again. Let's say then some coda, and then you're done with your song, right? That's sort of like expected, and that has been here for ages. Of course, there are some variations, but as Yondi would say, it's always good to have, let's say, 3. So there should be a 1, there should be a 2, and there should be a 3 in your song, whatever that is. So that it's gonna build up. But yeah, it's I'm like sometimes I'm like more bottom up. That means I start improvising, and then I would end up having something. But that is sort of tricky, because I usually get stuck, and I cannot, because I have a nice idea for some harmonic progressions and stuff like that, but without, let's say, seeing the whole thing or planning the whole thing, I usually get stuck, and I don't know how to continue, right? Because I never sort of set a path for me there. It's just I'm just walking around one place, and I don't know where to go next. And so it is always a good idea to have at least some structure, even if it's that stock structure as one part, another part, the first part, another part, these kinds of things, that really helps. And then, yeah, I'm improvising stuff. I would discard a lot of stuff, then I would just copy and paste the things together to, let's say, make them sound nice, and then I would edit stuff, and I have, let's say, a rough construction of whatever is there. That's for the music that I make by improvisation. But sometimes I would just click everything in. So let's say my latest chiptune was all clicked in, because I didn't have a keyboard there, right? So I was just clicking notes there, and I slightly had an idea what I want to achieve, but it turned out quite well. But yeah, it really depends, right? Sorry, it depends.
As for me, it seems there is a fight with your fears when you started to start your improvisation in your songs, because it's always I'm always afraid that I'll fail in improvisation. But still, when you started to start your improvisation, it becomes more and more fun. So. If you have nice spells, nice guys within your band who can improvise too, it becomes very, very fun. And also it was sometimes it was, when we started the one song, but due to improvisation we finished another song. But anyway, it's very fun, and if you someday play something, just try it out. I think it's it just must have to be.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Introduce me. Okay.
Yes, awesome, great.
Okay, it seems we have one more guest. It's Andy Feelin from Przewalski Ponies. Woo! We're kind of short on time, so we can have only one question left. So please make it a really good one. You have a good question? Are you sure?
There will be some surprise from Przewalski Ponies in auction. In what?
In auction. He's asking if there's going to be some surprise from Przewalski Ponies during a charity auction.
We don't participate.
Oh, okay. Apparently not. Aww. Okay, let's see another question. A better one. Now we have 4 people here. Oh, he just sat down. Please come to the stage. Oh, there is one. Oh, there's 2. So we can.
Well, we have all 4 here of you. So, is there any chance of collab?
As you may have noticed, yesterday we did a collab with Ivory. It was for the first time, but he really did well for us. It was a nice keyboard part for 2 of our songs. So yes, I am personally really open to collabing. I really think that it's the most cool part of Brony music community, that we all can collab and make some more fun stuff than we make it alone.
Exactly. Basically, on all my Facebook or Twitter or whatever, it says that I'm pretty much open for collabs. It kind of brings a new perspective, because sometimes when you spend a lot of time making music, it kind of becomes like stereotypical. And doing some collabs may open some new horizons, because working with many different people basically gets you some more experience with music, and yeah, you may learn things.
Yeah, same here. So are we doing a song together?
Yes.
Awesome.
One day.
Yeah. That works totally. Right. Okay, that was another question here. Let's just do that one.
Okie dokie. Starting through.
Okay, I was wondering if there are any biggest influences, like other composers and throughout your life, that got you to music or got you to write your favorite songs.
What about an inspiration? You know, my ideals are Skrillex as a DJ, because he's, you know, he's kind of crazy, and also I adore Adam Young from Old City, because he's also a good singer. He likes to play. He can easily play on really different instruments, and so if you see his performances, you will see that he's very agile. Yes, everyone loves him, and also he's not from the, you know, he's not too famous, but he started to play music just because he was very talented. Right. So when you see them, you're like, yeah, I have a lot to do. Right.
Right. So my influences, I was involved very much. Well, involved in. I was influenced very much by the demo scene in 1990s. So Purple Motion, Lizard King. These people who wrote a lot of modules, a lot of when I was asking you about those trackers. So a lot of track music, right? So yeah, so that part of music really much, let's say, influenced my chiptune works. For let's say my attempts at orchestral music, I very much like the work of John Williams, for example, and also my really, let's say, big source of influence is my colleague from Kingdom Come, right? Because he is someone who is defining the genre, and since I am supposed to compose a small part of the whole soundtrack, I of course need to get influenced by that guy, but he's really awesome. So his name is Jan Walta, and he's really great. So that is a good source of inspiration and collaboration. And then I like techno from the 1990s. I like glitch hop, these kinds of things, right? I like some bands from 1980s, some bands from 1970s. For example, Boney M. They would have really good tracks. Those that are not too known. Those are really good. For example, Never Change Lovers in the Middle of the Night. That is, I think, the best, the best funk track. Oh no, funk is it's funk. Is it funk? Yes. Yeah, the best funk track I think ever made in 1970s, right? And it's not really well known. And yeah, anyway, so yeah, so those are my sources of inspiration.
Yeah, for me it's mostly 70s and 60s and 70s progressive rock. Mainly Genesis, Yes, ELP and stuff like that, because it actually makes you think while listening to the music, and kind of entices you to figure out how they got there, how they use these different outmeters and weird scales and stuff like that. And also from more modern things, basically soundtracks. I can't remember the name of the guy who did the soundtrack to K-Pax. But it was a really kind of like a 90s techno visual with ambient and stuff like that. And also game soundtracks, Island Zero, which is responsible for Fallout soundtracks. Yeah, but that's basically it for me.
My biggest influence as a musician, the man who brought me into music in the first beginning, was British multi-instrumentalist Mike Oldfield. He's the guy who is capable of doing really anything in this musical world, any style, from folk to progressive rock to trance and pop music. Jean-Michel Jarre, yeah. I also like him. And also I would like to mention a Brownie musician, Eurobeat Brownie, who brought me into Brownie music. Because really personally I'm a big fan of 1980s and 1990s. So when I heard his music, he's like influenced by this era. And also 80s and 90s are my biggest influence in my own music. Also, Przewalski's ponies were much influenced by hard rock of the 70s. It's because of our friend Deep, who was our main composer for the first album, and half of the second album was also composed by him. Thank you.
Also, shout out to Darby, who does awesome progressive pony songs. Yeah.
Alright, I'm afraid the time is up actually. Yeah, time is well up. So please give it up for Andy from Przewalski Ponies, IvoryKeys, and Aidan James from Wasteland Wailers, and DJ Aerial. Next to the venue is a signing session, so we will slowly move there. And